So in this video we're going to look at the Porcelain Invoker build that's been dominating the TFT meta. In this current patch is the most dominant comp and it is pretty much a guaranteed first place if you can hit these units while not directly contested. There are very limited amounts of builds that can beat this comp, and they're all basically a fast 9 based comp. So what we're going to do here is we're going to show you exactly what the build is, what units you need to focus on, what items you need to get, where you want to position them, and how you're going to use this to ultimately climb a lot of LP in your current ranked games. So with this composition I was able to pretty much blast my way through all of Platinum all the way up to Emerald with just this one comp. So now we're going to go over all the champions in the composition. Okay, so we're going to have Annie, Nautilus, and Mumu, Lissandra, Ashe, Azir, Lilia, Kog'Maw, and Lux. Okay, so we've got 4 Invokers, 4 Porcelain, 3 Mythics, 2 Wardens, 2 Arcanists, 2 Snipers, and that is all the synergies we have here. Now, our main tank is going to be the Annie, okay? So it's really important to get her itemized as early as possible because she's going to be taking the brunt of the damage. And our main DPS is going to be the Ashe. She's going to want to focus on getting her items first and itemizing her over any of these other guys. So if we move on to our items, we're going to want to make sure that we're itemizing Annie and Ashe as we said. So for Annie, you want to put a redemption on her. I would pretty much say do this every single time in my opinion. I always put a Gargoyle Stoneplate on her just because of how I do the positioning and also because she's such a tanky unit with so much health and has her own healing source. This is really helpful item to have because when everyone's attacking her, you know, up to 9 players, she's getting so much resistances, she's healing herself and just taking a lot of hit off the other little mini tanks. I would also always give her a Warmogs here unless you can roll yourself a Porcelain or a Mythic emblem, in which case I put it on her over the Warmogs. In terms of Nautilus and the Mumu, they really don't get any items unless you have spare ones. So say for example you have a stone plate and you happen to have exactly the right items to make another stone plate, you might as well throw on one of these guys depending on who's the higher level. Generally you probably want to put it on your Nautilus if he's like a 2-star because he's a 2-star forecast. You want to keep him alive a little more and he does stun the enemy team, which can be really, you know, that can be the difference maker. So in terms of Lissandra, you don't really need to put items on her. It's more just you know, it's nice to have if you have the spare items after building all of Ashe's items. Put a surgeon on her. Same thing with Azir. If you have spare items after building everyone else's items, put that on Azir. The most important damage items are going to be Ashe's. So the main item you're going to need for this comp to work is going to be the Rage Blade. If you can't hit the Rage Blade, pretty much the build doesn't work and you will crumble. You need to hit a Rage Blade on Ashe because the rampant attack speed is really what makes the damage come through in this build. You then also want to get a Last Whisper, so this is also going to increase Ashe's damage, but what it also does is give armor pen. So it's really good that way. You can obviously use an Evan Shroud on one of these other tanks, but they do die pretty quickly in my experience, so the most ideal is to get a Last Whisper here. So you will want to put an Infinity Edge on her just to give her some bonus damage and some more crit chance. If you can't get it, it's not the end of the world, it is the best item, but you can use like a Giant Slayer or a Red Buff, something like that in its place if you need to. And for Lilia's items, we're looking at a Morellonomicon and a Static Shiv, so basically anti-heal and some of the magic resist dampen in there. So that's all the items and that is all the units we need. Now in terms of positioning your endgame board, what I do is put Annie in the front on her own, and then I bring the Amumu and the Nautilus back one. So as I explained earlier, how Gargoyles works is the more people hitting them, the more resistances they get, okay? So your Annie is pretty healthy, pretty tanky, has some healing ability here, and actually her ultimate heals her as well. So you want her taking most of the damage because she can just heal it back and she won't die instantly usually. In the event you find where she's dying really quickly, move these guys up so they can take some of the heat off her so she can survive a bit longer in the fight ultimately. But most of the time these guys are good to be in the back a little bit just so as they can get their abilities off, so he can heal himself a little bit more and take 1 or 2 people probably, and he can stun a lot more, which is really beneficial. Now Lissandra's back here because generally whenever you play the Ashe build, they're going to position things like their Keens or whatever they have, like a Gnar, on this side to try and walk down to kill your Ashe pretty quick. Now, I find if I have the Lissandra here, whenever they're moving down, Lissandra will focus the Keen or focus the Gnar, put them in the box, and then because they're so close to Ashe, Ashe will actually, you know, start hitting them and kill them. This is one of the best counters I think to a Keen or Gnar team is having the Lissandra, just because whenever they're in a box, they can't do their abilities, they can't heal, so it's just really easy to kill them. And when you're looking against a Keen team or a Gnar team, the Keen and the Gnar are pretty much the only reasons those builds work. So if you can put them in a little pot, they really can't win the round. So yeah, Ashe is back here because you want to have her tucked away in a corner, sort of as safe as possible. This is sort of the furthest away place that they can actually get to attack her. You have a couple of layers of defense here before they get to her, so that's ideal. Azir is just back here just to give a little bit of space, so if anyone comes they might hit Azir instead of the Ashe. These guys are just over on this side because you have to put them somewhere in the backline essentially. And it is more likely that your Nautilus is going to die over here and they're going to come down this side with some people, so you want them to kind of kill your Lux, your Kog'Maw and your Lilia before they get over towards your Ashe. So that's kind of what you're betting on. In the event you see there's more people coming from the right hand side, feel free to flip the board. You just want to put the Ashe on the side more or less where there are the enemy carries, so they can potentially shoot the back line, and you want to have the Lissandra on the side more or less where there's going to be a Kayn or something like that, the biggest threat, so she can put them in a teapot. So that's the ideal perfect scenario. This is where you want to be on your end game board. This is exactly how you will win the game. You want to focus on essentially getting a 2-star version of Annie and a 2-star version of Ashe, okay? Whenever you get those two at level 8, you can look at going level 9, because in my honest opinion, like, the Lilia is okay, but it's not going to be carrying you to a win. Nautilus isn't going to be really carrying you to a win. You're going to want to find your Lissandra and your Azir, and you want to get them both on the board. So once I level 2 the Ashe and level 2 the Annie, what I do is I personally save up to go level 9 and then start filling out the rest of the board, and then I will 2-star these guys afterwards. In terms of the Amumu, Lux, things like this, I would never look to 3-star them really unless I was heavily spooned it and I had a lot of econ spare. So obviously you get like a level 3 version of Amumu, it's like 27 coins where you could only be spending 9. And again, you get a 3-star Lux again, it's going to be like 18 coins where you could be spending only 6. So yeah, I wouldn't prioritize these guys. I would save the money, go level 9 quicker and try to hit one of these golds. So that is the perfect endgame board, but you have to get there, okay? And where we're going to play this is we're going to go fast 8, okay? We're going to try and just maintain as much health as we can while getting to level 8 with 50 coins, so as we can then roll for our Annie and roll for our Ashe. Now, the way I find success with this current patch is that I have been using the Darius Heavenly sort of opener if possible. You can use other openers, you can, go on YouTube and look for openers. I think Storyweave's a pretty popular one, but in my opinion, this Heavenly Darius one is the best one. So a lot of the time people will make mistakes, they'll go, oh, I've got a Lux here, I'll put the Lux on, and then they'll go and they'll go, oh, I've got an Amumu, I'll put the Amumu on. Okay, and then they've not really got that much synergy, and a level 1 Amumu is pretty trash, a level 1 Lux is very trash. Okay, so what you want to do is try and get yourself some synergy. So we know Darius is probably the best 1-cost unit in terms of damage output and tankiness combined. And then we have our Heavenly units, which, as you know, obviously give their bonuses to everyone on the board. So every single one of these players are all going to have, increased crit chance, increased damage, increased armor with the current champions on the field. What I would do is just on the side be collecting your people. So obviously, if we're pretending this bottom row is our bench, I'd be collecting your Luxes and collect your Amumus, things like this. I would even collect an Annie. I generally want to make the switch until you had, a lot of your build online, at least probably a 2-star Mumu, maybe a 2-star Annie, something like that. I would never be taking off a 2-star Darius with all these Heavenly units 2-starred as well, just for like a level 1 Annie and a level 1 Amumu and a level 1 Lux, because you're just going to get smashed. So you really have to think about playing your strongest board, playing your early openers, and how you're going to maintain going up to fast 8, okay? So I'll probably look at making a video on how to play strongest boards soon enough. If you check the channel, you might find it. But yeah, essentially you just want to be building around something like the Heavenly Darius. Get yourself to level 8 with as little HP loss as possible. Try and get like a level 2 off your tank and maybe, at least a level 1 Ashe before you start switching your build completely. And then you should be good to go. So in terms of rolling for this build, what I would personally do is I would not roll a single time under level 8 unless you're getting absolutely smashed to the point where you're on like 20 HP and you have to hit something to remain in the game. And at that stage you're probably not going to win anyway, you're just trying to maintain maybe a top 4 if possible, so that's okay. But in the ideal scenario, what you want to do is not roll once, get all the way to level 8, roll a little bit above 50 coins, okay? Try and get your Ashe and your Annie level 2. Once you get there, go to level 9, and then again roll for your Azir and your Lissandra. Ideally you'd be above 50 coins, but look, in some scenarios you need to go to 0 at level 9 just to hit these guys and to ensure your full build comes online, and then you can build your econ back. That's not ideal, but like, it's sometimes how you're going to win the game. It's just getting the golds first. So augments are pretty important for this build, but you don't need them to play it, okay? It's one of those builds where you can't play it without them, they just do enhance it, okay? One of the ones I really like is the mana shield one. So whenever an Invoker casts the ability, the lowest health Invoker gets a shield. That's quite nice, makes your team a lot more tanky. Boiling Point is incredibly good for this build because it just basically allows everyone to get more mana and so get more ults off. Also sort of naturally does some anti-heal, so if you can't find the Morellos and you get Boiling Point, not the end of the world, pretty good. Obviously then taking something like a Porcelain crown or an Invoker crown can be quite good. Now, you don't need to take the Porcelain or Invoker crown to hit the 4-4, but obviously, as we mentioned before, Annie is extremely tanky with a Porcelain emblem on her, so I would potentially just take it just for the Annie purposes. And if for some reason you get a spatula and you can make a second one, and you can get 6 Porcelain, it's going to be very, very, very hard to beat your build at any rate. And then just to mention how you can actually fish for these augments, so if you really want the Porcelain emblem, what you need to do, okay, is try and have as many Porcelain units on the field at the time you're about to hit the augment. So say for example, you're about to hit the 2-2 augment. What you want to do is just have your Lux and Amumi on if possible and take the rest of the units away. It will hopefully give you better chances at getting the Porcelain emblem or boiling point, something like that. It has worked for me in the past, but it's not always guaranteed. It just is a slight increase in chance. So that's exactly how you play Porcelain Invokers. Hopefully you can take this into your own ranked games and climb a lot of LP, and if you do, remember to leave a little comment down below just to let me know. But yeah, that's been the whole video. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. If you did, remember to leave a like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.